Waycross presents a forum for Colerain Township Trustee. There are 3 candidates running for 1 open position. The candidates are, in alphabetical order, Teresa Harper Kolodzik, Chuck Klosterman, Matt Wallert.
Welcome to another Waycross Election Forum. This forum is for Colerain Township trustees. I'm Kurt Radel, Government Programming Coordinator for Waycross Community Media. Before we start with a 2-minute statement, we will tell you that if you're watching live here on October 4th, you'll be able to email your questions in to the candidates. If you're watching live, the email address will be shown at the bottom of the screen. It is live@waycross.org. That's live@waycross.org. Now, if you're watching live, you must be a Colerain Township resident to ask a question. When you send in your email, please include your names, street address, and we only use your first name and street. Now, questions must be phrased that can be asked to all 3 candidates, not just to one. We will now introduce the candidate that we will begin with the 2-minute statement. It'll be Miss Teresa Kolodzik.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Harper Kolodzik. I'm a realtor and I'm also an accountant. I have a BS in accounting from the University of Cincinnati. I have over 30 years of experience in those professions. To give you an example of some of my duties that's relevant to being a trustee, I'll give 2. I write operational policies and procedures. I'm also a grant writer. I also have always participated in community service. To give you an example of some of my relevant community service, especially as it relates to youth, 2 different things. I work with youth in high school to help develop leadership skills. I also host, as a chair, a year-round talent and academic program that culminates into a competition in 26 different categories. The purpose of the program is to encourage excellence in academic achievement. The program was very successful and ended up having a class in Fairfield City Schools and 20 clubs after school programs. I am married. I'm actually a resident of Colerain Township. I married into the Colerain Township family with my husband, Michael, 2 years ago. The reason for my last name, Kolodzik, he is also a lifetime resident. That said, I am a new resident. However, I see Colerain through very fresh eyes and also as a seasoned realtor as well. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm hoping that you would consider me for your trustee.
Thank you. And Mr. Klosterman, your 2-minute opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Klosterman, and I am married to what a lot of people call a Brookster. My wife is from the Brook, and we have 3 sons in Colerain. And my profession is I am a software engineering manager. And so I have gone through a lot of quality aspects of software, a lot of engineering aspects of software. I have been married now for 33 years, and my background basically again is currently not currently, but at Siemens I was promoted and then moved on to Concentrics. And back in 82 to 88, I was in the Marine Corps serving the country, and now I'd like to serve you. So again, I was in the Marine Corps 82 to 88. The first was active, then the remaining was reserves. So and I just hope that you would like to vote for me to be your trustee. Thank you.
Mr. Wallert, your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Waycross and to my colleagues here for attending tonight, and I look forward to a spirited discussion about the future of Colerain. My name is Matt Wallert. I've been one of the 3 trustees for the last 3 years. A little bit about my background. I've taught high school government and history for 25 years. Although I'm on a break right now in order to serve the township, I've also taught 10 years as visiting professor of political science at Miami University, where I also received my PhD. I was chosen by the Hamilton County trustees to represent all the townships on the county solid waste board, where I'm vice president. I'm president of the Colerain Community Improvement Corporation. I'm also president of the board of directors of Mount Auburn Academy, Northside Academy, and Fairfield Academy. I have over a dozen printed publications with my major research focus on decision-making and public policy, and that's been cited by over 20 books and articles. Just to briefly, and I know we'll talk about this at greater length as it goes on, talk about some of the accomplishments that I feel are significant the last 3.5 years. The first thing, we instituted for the first time residential TIF districts. This is going to bring in approximately $16 to $18 million in new revenue to Colerain Township over the next 15 years. These have never been used in Colerain Township before, and a big part of this is we also made the school district whole. So far during my term, the township has been under budget approximately $15 million. It really works out to $5 million a year appropriation versus expenses, and I'm proud that we've been able to keep that spending at a low rate. One of the reasons why I think it's been helpful is self-insurance. For the first time 2 years ago, Colerain Township self-insured health insurance. That saved us over $1 million the last 2 years. We've also added we use recycle funds to get litter gatherers that have picked up over 7,000 bags of trash since 2021. We have 2 new fire stations, 15 new officers, police officers, 5 new school resource officers. And that is my time, so thank you very much.
Thank you for your opening statements. And we will now begin the questioning. And each question, you have 2 minutes to respond. What do you think are the top 3 issues facing Colerain Township? And we begin with Mr. Klosterman.
My top 3 issues right now with Colerain Township would be fiscal responsibility, the roads that are in need of repair, and identity theft and theft. So my point in all of that is, I think that fiscal responsibility is something that we need to make sure that we watch as a conservative. Again, I'm conservative. I basically would make sure that we are making the best decisions we can on any expenditures and any money that would be outgoing. As far as the roads go, I was educated on the roads. I did find out that when it is referred to as a road, that the county is supposed to take care of that area, but if it's listed as a street or a lane, that would be the township's responsibility. I was just educated on that. The other is the identity theft that continues to take place, not just in Colerain Township, but all over. And I'd like to be able to do something that we can to prevent this and educate our elderly people that this is going to be coming. I do understand that Cincinnati Bell now has a setup where you can do a *8. People will have to dial *8 to show their number before you answer if you have caller ID. But that would help immensely if everyone was educated on that. That's almost my 2 minutes.
And next is Mr. Walter. And again, what do you think are the top 3 issues facing Colerain Township?
Thank you so much. This is something I've thought quite a bit about. I think crime is the #1 issue. We've seen a lot of people moving from the city up to Colerain, and it's something I go through every day when I go to work and see crime. Not talking even violent crime, but people speeding, people not obeying traffic laws. And that's one of the reasons I push to get more police out on the street. You've heard it said it's a broken windows syndrome. Once you take care of the little things, oftentimes the big things take care of themselves. And I think that crime is in keeping our police force together and trained and at full staff is important. The other thing I think is about our future is the mall. It's the center of the township. Malls were designed to be centers of areas, and quite frankly, the Northgate Mall is statistically, we know it's going to fail. What that leads to is a lot of problems when it comes to upkeep and in the role of government. We have 31 abandoned malls in the state of Ohio, and what typically happens when these things get abandoned is the LLCs split up into 1,000 pieces, and it's very difficult to hold them accountable for any kind of property maintenance, and it's difficult to, you end up spending more lawyer fees in trying to get things fixed, and it takes forever. The court system is just slow in addressing that kind of thing. And the final thing I'll say is creativity. And I mean creativity in providing services to the residents of Colerain Township. You will see, our police calls are through the roof. 40,000 police calls a month, a year, and our fire calls are through the roof. We need to find a way to stop the increase of those calls, or else we're not going to be able to find a way to sustainably answer these questions in the future. So those would be my three.
And to Ms. Harper Kowalski, we would like to ask you, what do you feel the top 3 issues are facing Colerain Township?
Several things. My top 3 would be communication. I've been told that communication has been improved over the years. However, being a new resident myself, I can tell there's a huge gap in that communication. The reason why that's very important is because we have over 60,000 residents, and everyone should have a voice. And not everybody has the same means to get to a meeting, the trustee meeting, or access to a website to find out information about what's going on. I know the best practices for townships is to have some kind of newsletter, and it can also be a digital version of that letter as well. The things I mentioned are things that also can be funded or sponsored as well. The next thing is also EPA issues. We have to get to the point where we're kinder to our environment. We need to do more to recycle, reuse, and get rid of the trash. And this applies to not only residents, but also businesses. We have to hold our businesses accountable for cleaning up. That's the first impression when people come into our community, is to see the trash in the community. The last thing I'll touch on is that we have to do things to unite the community together. People really don't talk to each other anymore, so we need to have more events, different kind of events that connects businesses to the residents as well.
Now we will go to our first email, and this is from Rose from Colerain Township. The question is from Rose: can you tell us how your background will help you to be a successful trustee? And we'll begin with Mr. Walter.
Thank you. Well, I listed through my background a pretty lengthy list of experiences. I think my experiences on boards of directors for some of the schools that I work with, for the CIC, have given me experience in not only making decisions, but making decisions for the long term, for a long term. And it also gives me an opportunity to watch other people. Some of the best leaders I've ever seen have been on boards I've been on. And I'm a teacher, but I'm also a student wherever I go. I'm not afraid to learn new things. And I think that's been helpful too. And it's given me a sense of contacts where, we live in a world where contacts get things done. And when I need something from Colerain, it's oftentimes I can use a contact from another job. For example, just this summer, I had lunch with my boss at Miami University. Political science includes city planning and the city planning degree, and we worked out a situation where we're hopefully going to get 2 free interns at Colerain Township, and it gives us an opportunity for their students to work on some of their problems. So one of the things that I'm pushing one of their graduate students is to do a sustainability project on what the future of the mall could look like. And these are all levers, I think, to circle back to bring creative responses in government. So I think that my experience has given me leadership skills. It's given me financial skills, having to manage $2.5 million per school plus township, and it's given me those contacts that makes it helpful in order to get things done and to join people in projects together.
And for you, Ms. Harper, Kowalski, thank you.
Thank you.
Rose says, can you tell us how your background will help you be a successful trustee?
Yes, I would say that every job and everything I've done to volunteer has one common theme, and that is identifying problems, root causes of problems, and finding a solution. As an accountant, I also have conducted audits, and if you've ever seen an audit report, they summarize it by every single problem that a company has and best practices to resolve that problem. I've also done that when I work with my youth to teach them how to do research for a problem, for a project, finding how to fund it. Oftentimes it would involve grants, so there's research involved with that. It's oftentimes, when you have a grant, there's obviously a budget. When you have a budget, oftentimes you have to include your collaborating partners, and you also have to be able to track your success of that grant as well. So I've done that, and writing operational policies and procedures also is very key. The reason why that's important is because if you have a policy in place, you have to have the right procedures in order to make sure that process is effective. Most of my life, I've looked for gaps in processes and closed the gaps with solutions. So those are the few things that would help me as trustee.
Mr. Klosterman, can you tell us how your background will help you become a successful trustee?
Well, with my 6 years as a Marine, I learned a lot about leadership. And as I moved on from the Marine Corps, I have taken a position, again, as I said earlier, that I am a software engineering manager. And so I've managed teams literally all around the world. I've been learning a lot about diversity and working with multiple teams and getting things done. And that is probably one of the best things that someone once described to me about a month ago, that you get things done. Well, like I said, I'm also open to being educated. And earlier when I opened, I was educated about the roads. I really am passionate about making sure our roads get taken care of. But again, I was educated that anything named or titled a road is under the Hamilton County purview, and if it's listed as a street or lane, that would be the township. And we need to discuss where those are, and let's get those fixed. Again, as a person who is willing to be educated and work hard and allow myself to be open to others' opinions and views, I think I would do really well as a trustee.
We thank Rose for her email. And again, if you'd like to email in a question, you can do so at live@waycross.org. That's live@waycross.org. Again, make sure that you stress in the email a question that can be asked to all three of our panelists tonight. That's live@waycross.org. Now we go to our next question. Why do you want to serve as a trustee? And we begin with you.
I want to serve as trustee because for my whole entire life, I've always done community service. I do that regardless of holding a position as well. I see there's a lot of things that we can do to make Colerain Township a better place that people want to live, work, and play. I have an approach to solving problems that's very creative, and it does involve using a lot of volunteers as well as doing things we've never done before, like maybe reaching out to the businesses and getting them on the same page that the township is on, because the first impression that people have when they go into the township is a business. And I know there's a lot we can do to get them on the same page. Also, the kind of events that we can hold as well. I feel that I have a different vantage point from a lot of the trustees based on my experience and my background. And I believe that a lot of the trustees, if you think about it, they're looking out the window, they're looking in the same direction. So all they see is what they see. But I've always been, from the time I was born, trained to look at the big picture, because we're all in the same boat. You know, either we sink together or we swim together. So I believe that, I can do a great job if given an opportunity.
Again, the question is, why do you want to serve as a trustee? Mr. Klosterman.
I'd like to serve as trustee because I want to be able to bring people together. I want to be able to get things accomplished so that, again, we can go back to maybe not the glory days. Someone sent me an email saying that we don't think we're going to be able to go back to the glory days. And that's true, because back in the glory days, we had a lot less residents. And now we have a lot more residents. And so I think that we can bring them together and try to make sure that we are fully functional and enjoying where we live. A few years ago, we actually had a pickle tournament. I don't know if people remember that. but it was very, very great. Brought a lot of people, brought people in from other states. And I would like to see if we could start resurrecting things like that. I would like to see the Citizens Police Academy start again. The Citizens Police is a great thing. I participated that in Fairfield. It was outstanding. And I think what it did for me there was allowed me to understand some of the things that the police go through, some of their trials and tribulations. It helps other people to understand that. So I'd like to try to bring back the Citizens Police Academy. As your trustee, I would do everything I can to bring everyone together and make this a better place with better roads and less theft. Thank you.
Why would you want to serve as a trustee?
Well, I'd like to continue to serve as trustee because I feel that I have a lot of things that I need to finish, and I'm just getting started. You know, when I first got involved with this, I thought I got involved with it because I liked politics. It turns out I was completely wrong. What I like is policy, because policy is a way to help people. We've heard a lot of discussion about policy decisions and things like that throughout this evening. And you know, for folks that haven't been in the seat, it's never as easy as very good policy, very bad policy. Typically, it's trying to take the least worst of two options, and I think that takes a lot of research. I think that takes a lot of thinking about it, and that's something that I really pride myself in being prepared for that. But the other reason I want to serve is continue to serve as trustee is I want to switch the way we do things to a longer time horizon. Politics is done on 2 and 4 year cycles. It's really hard for me to get up here and say this is my goal in 15 years because people get impatient and they vote for someone else. But if we want sustainability, and we see this at every level, at the local, at the state, and the federal levels, we need to abandon the idea of politics and go to policy. And I think that's very important and significant. And that will give us more of a sustainable future. You know, this sounds nerdy, but one of my hobbies is I like to read the annual letters from Warren Buffett for Berkshire Hathaway. And he continues to always hammer home that give me a long hill and a small snowball, and I'll turn it into something. With the idea that you always have to be thinking long term. And I think that's something that politics doesn't favor. But that's something I want to get to change so that Colerain can answer some of these long-term questions.
In our next question, we can put it under the heading of redevelopment and business. Where do you see business development going in Colerain Township? Mr. Klosterman.
Actually, I would like to see more business development. Going back to the whole Northgate issue, I would really like to see more businesses coming into Colerain Township. I know that a few years back we had lost the Procter & Gamble down on East Miami River Road, and that took a lot of jobs with it. I'd like to see something be able to come back where we can develop and keep people here, keep people in the township, working in the township, and when they're working in the township, they will have pride in their township. Not that they don't now, but when they're working in a township, I think that would really, really turn things around, and I think that business development is big and needed.
Redevelopment and business. Where do you see business development going in Colerain Township? Mr. Walbert.
So one of the things I keep stressing to our leadership team, which is fantastic, the people that are on our leadership team have experience in redevelopment and bringing in new businesses and attaining those goals, is that we're not waiting. We need to go get it, and we need to be aggressive. The market, it's a lot different than it was maybe 30 or 40 years ago, where communities could sit back and wait for a company to come, and they could throw some credits at them, or some kind of abatement or something like that. It's different now. It's aggressive in companies, and if you want new companies here, you have to go after them. And that really starts, again, I hate to keep going back to the same thing, but the mall. Malls were built in the 50s to be like cities. They look exactly like cities. It was supposed to be the center. What's the center of Colerain? And that's a discussion I've had with a lot of community members, and it keeps coming back to the mall. Well, if the center is hollow, you've got a hard time bringing in new businesses. And that's why we have to start from that level and build up and out with that.
Redevelopment and business. Where do you see business development going in Colerain Township? Ms. Kolazik.
Very good. I see that we first of all have to make sure that we keep the businesses here thriving. We need to support them and highlight them a lot more at different events and even include them in our newsletter. So when new residents move into the area, they see all the different options of dining and entertainment that they can participate in. Beyond that, I believe that we need to really ask the residents what they would like to see in the community, because they're going to be supporting it as well. If I was personally looking for something, it would be something more of a fine dining and a place where you can listen to music and dine at the same time, something that does it throughout the day rather than late at night. And we also have to make sure that we keep our area attractive to do business by keeping it clean. If you go up and down Colerain, it's really awful. And we need to hold the county accountable for doing that. So we need to always keep a relationship going with the county as well, and with the state on state roads. So we have to keep it clean and take care of and support the businesses that we have here and make it more attractive for businesses to want to relocate here, and then go after them as well, invite them.
We are having an election forum with Colerain Township trustee candidates. If you would like to participate, you can. If you're watching live on October 4th, you can email your question. Now keep in mind, when you email your question, we'll only read your first name and your street address, but also, in addition to that, phrase your question so all three candidates can answer the question, not just for one specific candidate. Now we move on to, what are some of the things you've seen Colerain Township improve? 2 minutes, Mr. Walter.
I think one of the things that we've seen improve is Colerain Township is a destination for new residents. Over the last 4 years, we've had $100 million in new homes that have been built, and it's been probably, we're second and third in the county in number of new home starts, and we're starting to see those assets improve. We all know that Colerain Township, we're middle class. The quickest way to wealth in the middle class is our home, and we've seen home values go up. In fact, the latest data from downtown, from the county, is that residents have gone up 39% in value, industrial 10%, commercial 20%, and agricultural land a third. So our Colerain is becoming a place again for people to come, and I think that that's one improvement. We've talked a lot about the trash situation, and that it's one of those things that you can never fix, but you always have to work towards it. And like I said in my opening, we have hired litter picker-uppers with recycle funds from the county, so it's not Colerain Township money, and they've picked up over 7,000 bags of trash since 2021. They've picked up, I think it's 500 shopping carts, 400 tires. We've taken the last year, a year and a half, we've taken 156 junk vehicles off of Colerain streets, and those have been significant as well. And the one thing that I think you don't see it, but it's the cut in overtime. We've knocked overtime for police in half in the last 4 months, and I'm very happy with that.
Ms. Kolowski, what are some of the things that you've seen Colerain Township improve?
I can answer that from a perspective of a realtor. Houses, people still want to move here. It's still a place where people want to come. The houses have been sustaining their value. They're going up in value. They stay on the market for a very short period of time. Besides that, I'm such a new resident, and my focus is on things that we need to do different. And I don't have access to a lot of the data as well. But definitely in the real estate market, it's looking really good.
Mr. Klosterman, what are some of the things you've seen Colerain Township improve?
Well, one of the biggest things that I've seen is an improvement were the parks. I think the parks really, they've been cleaned up. They look really good. And going back to what I said earlier, we had one of the parks, one of our largest parks, that held the pickle tournament down there that brought in, again, drew many people from many states, and it was really, really good. And it was great to see a lot of participation in that. So I would say that that's probably one of the best things that I've seen. Yes, houses are being built. Yes, I think that's great as well. But again, I would like to see a little more bringing more business in. And I do think that we do need to go out and get to bring the business in. But again, one of the best things I think they've done is clean up the parks and create good places for everybody to get together and enjoy themselves.
Our next question, Ms. Kolowski, we have this for you. We have, what can Colerain Township's trustees do to keep businesses, a retention of businesses?
One thing that the township can do is to promote the businesses, highlight the businesses. The relationship between the township and also the Chamber of Commerce, it probably can use some tweaking to include businesses, smaller businesses that can't afford to pay for membership to the Chamber of Commerce as well. And they can also have more events that focus on maybe a theme of the business, different types of food, and highlighting, having a day where they highlight a certain product or a certain type of service that an organization, that a business actually is in. So just doing a whole lot more highlighting, especially in something like a newsletter that I mentioned before. We could actually put together a list of all the different businesses and at least do it in a welcoming packet when a customer first moves into Colerain Township. And then also we could support the business. Every time we spend money, a portion of that money should go, of that contract should go to be spent using the services of a small business. So a landscaping company, we use that landscaping company, and so on and so forth. So supporting the business with our dollars and also promoting them market-wise with the residents.
Again, what can the Colerain Township's trustees do to keep the businesses?
I'm sorry, keep the business?
To retention of businesses.
Retention of business, yes. Well, we're a very diverse township, and I think that as long as we are continuing to grow and expand, I've noticed that we have several new restaurants of different capacities, and I think that's great for business retention. I would like to see more business reaching out to businesses to ask them what we can do to retain them. So it's not so much that we come up with a thought to retain them, but they come to us, or we go to them and ask them what is it we can do for them and to be able to retain them in the area. And I think once we do that, then we'll find out what it takes to keep them.
Again, what can the Colerain Township trustees do to keep businesses in terms of retention?
Well, it depends a lot on the context, and I'll give you an example of one thing that we did do during the COVID shutdown is that we allowed like a temporary DORA where people could have drinks outside to a certain level. I forget the actual number of feet, but that was to bring more business in at a time when a lot of these businesses were really struggling. We have an economic development director, and he makes visits to businesses all the time and says, all right, what can we do for you that's different? When businesses approach us, that economic developer also suggests parcels that could be available. And the one thing that is really changed completely in the last 4 years since I've been here is the Colerain Chamber of Commerce. They are so active. They do such an incredible job. Just, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, they did a bus, and I was invited. I was happy to be invited and humbled to be there with about I think it was 50 business owners, and we went through the township and talked about opportunities for expansion and things like that. And Dave Morovic has done an outstanding job, and I see us partnering more and more with that. The key to a lot of this is future partnerships. We're starting to do more and more with Northwest School District as well. It's not three separate entities. I mean, I guess it is organizationally, but we all have the same goal in mind. And oftentimes, if we work together, it improves things. And I want to just talk very briefly about the newsletter, and this has been brought up a lot. With 60,000 people, even sending it out once a quarter is very expensive. We do have a thing called Circle where we put reports on, and that number has gone up the last 4 years by 5,000 users. We send out reports and stuff. It's all digital, I know, and not everybody's digital. But it's very difficult with 60,000 people to send out a regular newsletter.
Again, you can be part of what we are doing tonight with our Colerain Township trustees. You can email your questions, and you can email it to live@waycross.org. That's live@waycross.org. Now we go to our next question is, we talked about business retention. What can the trustees do to attract residents for growth? Mr. Klosterman, we begin with you.
What can we do to attract businesses? In my opinion, I think that what we can do as trustees is reach out to the different industries and find out what it is that they need and what we can provide as to where they can build their business and grow their business and also help the township.
Mr. Warner, what about how can we attract businesses?
Attract businesses
Or
or
residents? I'm sorry, residents.
And Mr. Klosterman mentioned it a couple moments ago, and he's exactly right. The park visitors, and the data on this is just stunning. In 2019, the year that I was elected, there were 173,000 visits to the park. 2020, you can't count because things were different, and it 332,000, but it was off way out of whack. In 2022, we had 253,000, and right now we're sitting at 190,000. The one thing I hear from people all the time is Colerain has such great parks. And I think we've made an effort to improve that, and we've used a lot of state funding to do that as well. So he's exactly right when we talk about the parks. That brings residents. But the other thing that I think is going to bring residents is more partnership with the school district. We certainly are in, like we've mentioned many times, we certainly have the same shared goal, and we could have those partnerships in order to let people know what our school district provides. And one thing that I've been bugging realtors about for a long time, not Ms. Klosdick personally, but if you go to the MLS page and they have the description of the community, it drives me absolutely crazy because it's the Colerain Township when I was in high school that's described. They're like the vibrant mall, and it's just, that's one of the things that I keep pushing people to work on. How do we get to the realtors to get that change? We need to let people know who we are and what we are, and we're much different than we were. I graduated high school in 1987. I lived in back of the mall then. It's a different community, and it has a lot of positives that we need to let them know it's not the same Colerain, and we've been trying to do that.
Ms. Koloski, what can the trustees do to attract residents?
A lot of things that can be done is to make Colerain Township more attractive. There needs to be a lot more green space. Offer some of the things that you see in districts like Loveland, a bike trail. I'm basically an outdoor person. Love to go out and ride a bike, and it'd be nice to have something like an archery place for students and people. It'd be good to have a actual pickleball that's in the parks, that's so that people have access to it rather than behind the administrative building. And then also sharing with promoting what's great about Colerain. And I believe that you can get that information updated by just providing more current information. It's not an individual realtor that has access to update information about Colerain, but I believe that's something that the administration can easily take care of. I want to also touch bases on the newsletter. Like I mentioned before, newsletters can be sponsored. it's possible to sponsor it, businesses can sponsor it, and at the same time, you're promoting all of the attractions and events that's going on in Colerain. And I also believe that we're obligated to reach people where they are. You can't punish people and shut out their voice simply because they don't have a smartphone or have access to looking or care to look at a website or even know what a website is, or they don't do Facebook. We have to meet people where they are. So a newsletter is possible if the priority there is to hear voices from everyone, not just people in certain segments or people that attend the meetings, because not everybody can attend a meeting. So communication is important, and that way we can share what's great about Colerain to new residents.
Our next question is, what kind of specific things can Colerain Township trustees do to promote unity within the city for the township itself? We start with Mr. Walter.
So I think that community events are a key to promoting unity. We put on a pretty big 4th of July event, and to be honest, if you would compare those numbers to other communities, a lot of other communities have a significant number of problems that emerge from that. We don't, and it's because it's a community event. I think the more things like that we do, the better it becomes. I want to mention specifically here the Northbrook community, because this has kind of stood as a model in Colerain Township. About 3 or 4 years, they had 3 or 4 years, well, I guess it's been 5 or 6 years ago, they had a terrible instance. The people said they had enough, and they banded together and they formed a group that's just really right now moving bridges. They're doing so well in kind of recreating Northbrook. And the one thing that I'll point out, that when it first came to me, I said, I don't know about that. I really wasn't for it, and the community said to me, we want it. And I said, I'll trust your vision on this. And it was the mural in Northbrook. And it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and it brings people together. So that when they came to me and talked about the butterfly garden, I'm like, you got it. Because they understand the community better, and they're working through to make this a better place. And I think that stands as a shining example, and they're just so close knit. I look at them and I'm so proud of what they've done, because my history is that my grandfather was one of the first people to buy a house there after World War II, so it's come full circle. And it's just, I can't say enough about them. They stand as an example of what can be done.
Ms. Goldsmith, what kind of specific things can Colerain Township trustees do to promote unity within the township?
Well, they could just focus on all of Colerain Township and not just certain areas of the township. It would be nice to actually have events where neighbors can get to know each other. When I was younger, we always had something called a block party, so that way you get to know one another. We could do something very creative and make it a game. How many new neighbors have you met today? And then have an event and put the names in a hat and get a prize or something. But but we have to get to know each other's neighbors and everything. So maybe having more events, but think about places where the trustees haven't had an event before, and have it in that particular neighborhood, and encourage all the neighbors to participate. I also like it when I see events where the entire neighborhood is doing like a yard sale or something like that. I think that brings people together, or any kind of event, a cook-off.
What kind of specific things can the Colerain Township trustees do to promote unity within the township, Mr. Clusterman?
Well, I would say, as I said earlier about the parks, I think we are a very diverse township, and again, having the pickle tournament, as I go back to that was very, very awesome, and again, great turnout. But we need to be more diverse. We need to have more outreaching events for people to attend, and I think having a veterans park would be huge. I think it would be great for our veterans to be able to come out and just meet one another and meet other people. Again, I do agree that we need to do more to focus on things. I'm German, and I belong to a club where we just had a car show, and it was great. It was probably one of the greatest car shows we had. You know, we could certainly do something like that as a township, and it would bring a lot of car enthusiasts out to be able to talk and meet one another and discuss what they like. But that's just a couple of examples. There's so many other examples that we can do. Again, as a diverse community, we need to be able to reach out to all those that have specific interests and try to make sure that we meet those interests to get everybody out to meet one another.
We're nearing the 10-minute mark of the election forum, so therefore we're going to be asking for your closing statements. 2-minute closing statement, and we begin with Mr. Klosterman.
All I can say is I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come here tonight, explain a little bit about my background, and understand what I can do and what I'd like to do as a trustee. And I can only say that I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Waller?
Thank you so much, and thank you to Waycross and for my colleagues here, and to yourself for being a fantastic moderator. You know, it's Colerain has a kind of a siren call for me. It keeps calling my family back. My grandfather started here, and then after they moved, my mom moved back, and then after I moved out, I moved back. I think it's something in the blood. I don't know, that just sticks with you. But I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm so humbled to be able to have served the last 3.5 years. I said this when I ran last time, and I'll continue to say it. Nobody will outwork me ever when it comes to this. Nobody will out-research me ever. We may not agree on issues, but certainly no one will do more homework than I will, and no one will try more avenues to solve problems. The other thing that I'd just like to point out, I think it's kind of the two sides of me. You know, I spend much of my afternoon with high school students or students at some of the community schools I'm president of. And then I come back to Colerain, and sometimes politics can get kind of rough. It's a contact sport. And it kind of renews me every day when I go back into the school to realize that what I'm doing here in the evenings is something to help make the future brighter for maybe not those specific kids, but for kids. We need to leave Colerain Township, our country, in a better place than than we received it. It's a moral responsibility, and we need to start thinking in long-term plans, or this experiment that we have here, this republic, is in jeopardy unless we start thinking about the best interests long-term instead of just tomorrow. So I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
And your closing statement of 2 minutes.
I want to thank you for the opportunity for the forum. You're doing a great job as a moderator. I want to be trustee. I believe that we need a different voice. We need a different perspective. We need someone that actually do a better job listening. I'm always thrilled to see, when I watch the meetings online, residents come and state a problem, because that shows they're very passionate, and they show a perspective that sometimes I didn't even think about. As a trustee, I'll always remember that I'm their voice, and I would listen to their perspective and take it into consideration and not rush to judgment and rubber stamp things. My entire life, I've always done finding solutions to problems. And Colerain has a few. There's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of gaps in terms of answering people's questions directly. I see a lot of the same repeat problems, so that tells me that there's a process that's missing when it comes to following up and answering questions directly. And because the same problems happen over and over again, so there's something that needs to be done a lot differently. And then I also want to just, I I love this neighborhood. I want to be part of it, and I want to be help with all the solutions. I share your values, I share your concerns, and I would love to be your voice. I didn't get a chance to share a lot about myself, so you can go to my website, and it's Trust Teresa for trustee.org. Trust Teresa, and I want to be your next trustee. Thank you.
I thank all three of you for joining us this evening, and I thank you for joining us. If you need more information before you vote in the upcoming election, you can watch all of the election forum online at waycross.tv. You can also go to the Hamilton County Board of Election website to make sure you are registered. Look at the sample ballot and find out where your voting location is. Register by October 10th. Voting is on November 7th. I'm Kurt Radel, Waycross Programming Coordinator, and we'll see you at the polls on November 7th.
Waycross takes no position on candidates or issues. We conduct these forums so that our viewers may be better informed voters for the November 7 election.